I want to tell you about a project that I consider both our greatest technical achievement and our most expensive commercial failure. And the cost wasn't measured in dollars, it was measured in everything we left on the table. Around 2010, we deployed 30,000 Windows desktops at Staples Business Depot. 4 people, 9 months, under budget. The competitor we beat had proposed 52 people and 16 months to do the same job. By every technical measure, it was the best project we had ever run and delivered. And Staples Business Depot still doesn't know who we are. That's not an exaggeration. To this day, there's no decision maker at the company who could tell you our company name. No reference, no testimonial, no follow-on work. We delivered something extraordinary, walked out the door, and disappeared completely. And I want to explain exactly how that happened, and more importantly, what it forced us to change inside of our own business. Let me start with some context on how enterprise IT services actually works, because most people outside the industry don't see this part. When a large enterprise needs help, say a Windows deployment, a cloud migration, an infrastructure refresh, they almost always default to a brand name vendor. Dell, HP, IBM, Accenture, Tech Mahindra, Avanade, you know the names. The procurement logic here is simple. Nobody gets fired for hiring IBM. Big company, big brand, presumably big capability, but here's what they don't see. Inside those large firms, A players are rare in the delivery organization. They exist, but they're concentrated in the proposal process, in the pre-sales engine, not the execution team. What typically happens is an A player walks in, runs the sales cycle, builds the credibility with the client, closes the deal, and then a completely different group of people show up on day one to actually do the work. Sometimes solid, but often not. That was one of the real advantages of running a boutique consulting firm. We didn't have the separation between who sold it and who delivered it. Our principal consultants were accountable end to end. And because of how we built the team, every person was at a minimum a strong B player, but most were genuine A players with deep specific expertise. That's not something you can say about the delivery bench at a 50,000 person consulting firm. So in 2010, that advantage is exactly what got us the call. Microsoft had a funding mechanism they called MIRF, Make It Right funding. And when a large enterprise deployment goes badly enough, and off the rails, Microsoft will sometimes step in and fund a remediation or partial remediation effort to protect the platform and the relationship. Staples Business Depot's Windows desktop deployment had gone sideways. Microsoft called us in. Staples didn't know us, but Microsoft did. And in the enterprise IT space, that's often enough to earn a seat at the table. We weren't handed the project, we still had to compete for it. We were up against a firm the size of an Accenture and Avanade, a brand name, you'd know the name. It was a large team, an established Microsoft relationship of their own. We sent in one of our principal consultants and an account manager. 2 back-to-back 2-hour calls, and in those 4 hours, our principal consultant and account manager did something the competition couldn't do. They demonstrated specifically and technically exactly what was wrong with the existing architecture, what needed to change, and how we would execute the remediation. Not in theory, not at a high level, in detail. We got the engagement. The competitor's proposal, 45 technical consultants, 6 project managers, 1 roll-up engagement manager, 16 months. Our proposal, 4 technology people, 1 project manager, 12 months. We actually finished in 9 with 3 people actively working on the project by the end. We were way under budget. And here's where I made my mistake. And I want to be honest about why it happened, because it wasn't carelessness. It was a blind spot that was entirely reasonable given how we thought about our business at the time. We were a technically excellent firm. That was our identity. That was what we were proud of. And for the first several years of building the business, being technically excellent was enough to generate the next engagement. Word traveled, referrals came in, Microsoft pointed clients our way, the technical reputation, the reputation of our people did the commercial work. But what I didn't fully understand and grasp was that the model breaks the moment the people singing your praises don't have access to the people who write the checks. For 9 months, we were embedded inside Staples Business Depot. Our team was on site, solving real world problems, hitting real milestones, and the entire time, every person we interfaced with was either a non-decision maker Staples employee assigned to the project or an external project management contractor. Great people, capable people, people who had no budget authority though, and no seat at the leadership table. We never had a single conversation with a business decision maker at Staples. Not once in 9 months. And here's the part that stings even more. We also didn't fully capitalize on the Microsoft relationship. Microsoft was aware of the project and how it had gone well. Our success was on their radar, but we didn't proactively champion it within the local Microsoft district, which was out of the Boston office. We didn't go back to that relationship and say, here's what we delivered. Here's the proof point. Here's how you can use this story with the next client who needs remediation at this scale. We let that opportunity sit. We were so focused on the execution, we didn't treat the outcome as a commercial asset. 2 doors. We didn't walk through either of them. Here's what I should have done. And I want to be specific because vague advice on relationship building is useless. 90 days into the engagement, once we had enough delivered to have credibility, but early enough that the project still had runway, one of our principal consultants should have made a single ask to the project team. We'd love to put together a brief progress update for your leadership. Who's the right person to loop in? That's a professional ask. It's not selling, it's reporting. It's what a confident, high-quality partner does, and it gets you into the room with the person who controls the next budget. Before the current project ends, before the relationship has a chance to expire. We should have also gone back to Microsoft's Boston district team at the same 90-day mark with a concrete update. Here's where the project was, here's where it is now, here's what we've changed architecturally, here's the trajectory forward to completion. Turn that conversation into a case study they could use internally, make the story useful to them. When you make your success useful to a partner like Microsoft, they have a reason to tell it. We didn't do either of those things. And when the project closed, we shook hands with project managers and contractors we'd never see again and walked out the doors as complete strangers. Epic failure. The project's completion didn't feel like a failure in the moment. It felt like a win. But we had delivered exactly what we said we would ahead of schedule under the original scope. That's a good feeling, but the commercial reality set in quickly, and we had no reference from Staples, no follow-on conversations, no name recognition anywhere in the account. A 30,000 seat enterprise deployment that should have been a launch pad was a one-time transaction. What it forced us to do was look hard at how we thought about account management, and more uncomfortably, how our principal consultants thought about relationship building. When we started having that internal conversation, we ran into something I didn't actually anticipate. A lot of principal consultants were resistant, not because they were selfish or didn't care about the business, but because they were generally concerned and believed that if they started building relationships with client stakeholders, they'd be perceived as salespeople, not technical. And that felt wrong to them. They were technologists at heart. They were there to solve problems, not to schmooze. The idea of walking down the hall to introduce themselves to a VP made them uncomfortable in a way that rewiring a deployment architecture didn't. That tension was real, and it took time to work through. The reframe that eventually landed was this. Relationship building isn't selling, it's quality assurance. When you keep a senior stakeholder informed, you're ensuring the project is perceived accurately at the right levels and not just delivered accurately. When you make sure a decision maker knows what problem you solved, you're protecting the value of the work. That's professionalism, not sales. Some of our principals absorbed that framing and ran with it. They became genuinely strong at relationship side selling or relationship development, but not in a transactional way, but in a way that became natural because they led with their technical credibility they already had. Others, honestly, never got there. They were exceptional technologists, and that's where their value lived. Over time, we got better at pairing those principals with account managers who could carry the relationship layer so that the technical work got done at the highest level and the commercial relationship got built in parallel. That structural change, separating who does the work from who owns the relationship, deliberately and accountably, was one of the most important operational shifts we made, and it didn't happen overnight. But Staples was the project that made it unavoidable. So there are two things from this story I'm proud of, and two that still sting. I'm proud that we put a team in front of Staples Business Depot that actually delivered what we promised in an industry where the bait and switch from proposal to delivery is effectively standard operating procedure. We didn't do that. What we sold was what we showed up to deliver, and in the end, what we delivered. That consistency built the technical reputation that got Microsoft calling us in the first place. I'm proud that we used this as a genuine learning moment. It would have been easy to call Staples a win and move on. Instead, we sat with the discomfort of what it cost us and made real structural changes in account management, in our project management office, and in how we developed our principals as client-facing professionals. What stings is that we had two doors open at the end of that project and didn't walk through either one of them with any intention. The Staples relationship was right there. The Microsoft Boston district relationship was right there. The credibility to open both doors had been fully earned. We just didn't treat the outcome as something that needed to be actively leveraged. We thought good work would speak for itself. It doesn't. Good work gives you the right to tell the story. Telling the story is still your job. Now here's the part I want you to sit with, because this is where the lesson stops being abstract. Up to that point in our history, we had never landed a single consulting engagement larger than $500,000. Not once. All of them were under that dollar amount. That was our ceiling, and it wasn't a capability ceiling. The Staples project proved that. It was a relationship ceiling. We weren't getting to the people who could say yes to something bigger because we weren't building relationships that put us in that conversation. After Staples, we changed how we operated inside accounts deliberately, structurally. We paired technical principal consultants with people who owned the relationship layer. We built the habit of reaching senior stakeholders during engagements, not after them or at the end of them. We stopped treating project completion as the finish line and started treating it as the beginning of the next conversation. And the accounts we were already working in started to grow, not because we got technically better, we were already great, but because the right people inside those organizations finally knew who we were and what we could do. Projects that would have been one-time transactions turned into multi-year, multi-million-dollar consulting engagements. The kind of recurring, compounding revenue that changes what a business looks like on paper. That growth, the size of the engagements, the depth of the client relationships, the predictability of the revenue is a meaningful part of what made our business attractive to an acquirer. When we eventually sold, the value wasn't just in our technical capability, it was in the client relationships we had built and the demonstrated ability to grow inside accounts over time. Buyers don't just buy what you can do. They buy the evidence that customers trust you enough to keep paying you more. Staples was the project that broke that ceiling open, not because it went perfectly. It didn't commercially, but because it was a painful enough experience that we actually changed. If you're running a services firm right now and your engagements are staying flat, same clients, same scope, same size, year over year, I'd ask you to look hard at the relationship layer before you look at your technical capability or your pricing. The ceiling is probably not where you think it is. That's the move we missed at Staples. And fixing it changed everything. If this resonated, a like video genuinely helps. Give me a like on the video, refer others to the channel. Hopefully I can help you grow your business faster and more efficiently and effectively than I did, so that you can achieve greater levels of success. Love to see you get subscribed, and we'll see you in the next video.